Usually when we're talking about the Patriots, I say to Michael Holley, look, man, you know Bill Belichick better than almost anybody I know. That almost applies to Thomas Dimitroff, former Falcons general manager, who of course came up in the Patriots organization before he led the Falcons to great heights, including a Super Bowl appearance. So Thomas, I mean, Michael and I have gone back and forth on, Belichick. Michael says he doesn't even recognize this Bill Belichick. He's so effusive in his praise for Cam Newton. Like Cam Newton is the new Lawrence Taylor or Ed Reed or something like that. Like he wants to adopt him. I'd love to know from your vantage point and having watched these quarterbacks from afar in preseason, what is your expectation of how, just based on what you know about Bill Belichick, how he may go about deploying these quarterbacks in a decision that he's going to make starting with week one?
Well, I have to start off by saying you guys look great. By the way, thanks for having me on here. And when you were playing those the lines from Mac, just guys talking about it, I just imagine Nick Caserio and Brian Flores saying the exact same things. I thought you guys were going to lead into that, talking about what we're talking about. And my head was spinning, thinking, wow, that's exactly how they are going to bring this up. Thinking about New England through and through, I'm always going back to thinking about New England and how they approach things and where Bill is. The reality is he's got a young guy there who is really talented, who's very raw, of course, and young, but he is really good at maneuvering through their system and very methodical in his young years already, or young year already. It's been really impressive watching him. I haven't watched him every game, but having a chance to see him move around, I think that's great. I think, like I said before, any organization that drafts a first round quarterback is very keen on getting that first round quarterback as ready as possible, as soon as possible. Very different from back in the old days. I get it. But it's a real feather in the cap when you feel that you've hit on someone and that player is able to play early on. For us, it was Matt Ryan, of course, many GMs over the years and head coaches. That is a big thing for them. Not saying that Cam is not the starter here, but to see a young quarterback come in and operate how he's operated, of course, that's impressive.
So, and Belichick also went on to say, as always, as you know, Thomas and Michael, he's going to do what's best for the team. And I had this thought this morning, and I haven't shared with Michael. I'll share with both of you guys, and I'd love to get both of y'all thoughts on it as people who know a lot about this man, this organization, and how he thinks better more than I do. I wonder, and again, because all of the evidence points to Cam being the starter in terms of how they've approached practice and even the preseason games, who he's worked with. And Michael, you said this when we talked before about how Cam Newton just can't be a backup. He just doesn't have the personality to serve as a backup. Is this a stretch, Thomas, to think that when Bill Belichick looks at the totality of the situation, even though there's a lot of upside with Mac Jones, could he look at it as the best thing for this team, the makeup of this team, when I look at these two quarterbacks, is for Cam to be the starter? Maybe it's more intangible, and I'm not talking about leadership ability or anything. I'm not talking about fit, like from a locker room standpoint. Should Cam be the starter for now, as ready as Mac Jones appears to be, just given the construction of this team, the roster, the chemistry, something that you can't quite identify from the outside? But to your point, Michael, maybe Cam needs to be the starter for this to work, at least in the short term. Does that make sense, Thomas?
It does. There's no question about it. I mean, Cam should be the guy that comes in, given his experience and knowing how things are operating and knowing that organization and how key they are on having people who play their system well and understand their system. Both of these guys do. One, of course, is an aged veteran. The other one is a young gun. There's no question that Cam could come in there and set the tone and then roll into the opportunity for Mac to take over. But in the end, we know this. Ultimately, you have to look at all the things that you and I probably don't know about and all the discussions, of course, that Bill has with the rest of the organization about what is the best for the organization to get Mac ready, because that's ultimately where they're going. And to me, personally, I like to see a young guy come in and get his feet wet early. That worked for us in Atlanta. That said, I think Bill has a great deal of respect for both of these quarterbacks, whether it's Cam or whether it's Mac. And I think they're in a good spot in New England right now with two legitimate enough guys to take them into the season.
Yeah, and they really like him. To answer your question, Mike, they really like Cam as a guy.
Right.
Like everybody says wonderful things about him just as a teammate, as an individual, as a worker. So even if they thought, hey, he can't handle it, or he thought before he got to New England he couldn't handle it, maybe with their relationship with him, maybe they've convinced him, hey, man, it's not what you think it is. You can deal with it. Maybe. I'm not saying any inside information, but maybe that relationship has allowed them to have that conversation. Thomas, I want to. I don't know if you have a comment on that, because I just want to ask you a quick question before we move on to another topic. You have any comment about that relationship, Cam and the Patriots?
Yeah, look, you and I both know, all three of us know, there is no way that Coach Belichick is going to keep someone in his organization that he did not think was fitting into where they were going. Last year was a big, big deal for them. I personally, and I've heard before from that organization, they like him. Again, his smile, his presence is good for that organization. Yeah, he's not your normal guy who, his style at times, whether it's hats or whether it's style like you and I, the three of us believe in. But the reality is they like him there, and the fact that he's there means a lot in my mind.
I want to switch gears and ask you about, we were talking about this before, the Texans and the Dolphins. And it's just really interesting to hear all the things that are coming out right now. One of the things is, hey, the Texans are looking for 3 first-round picks and 2 second-round picks. It doesn't appear that they have the leverage to get that now with Deshaun Watson and all the things that are going on with him. But from a general manager's perspective, when you hear those reports, are you annoyed? Like, wait a minute. What are they trying to do here? Are they trying to bully me into coming up with compensation that is not realistic? Are they playing some games? Just how do you look at this whole situation from a GM's perspective?
No, first of all, not annoyed at all, Michael. I mean, I understand it. I've been around it, been around big moves before in the NFL. It's Nick's prerogative, Nick Casero's prerogative, and the Texans to get all they can get for the ostensible one of the best quarterbacks in this league. That's what's understood. Understand this, and this happened with Julio Jones with us back in 2011. When you first dig your feet in and you start ruminating about what it costs to make a trade, how much it's going to cost in trade booty, so to speak. At first, you're back on your heels and you're like, wow, there's no way I can do this. There's no way. No, we can't afford this. And then you spend 2 days, 2 weeks, maybe even a month, and you start thinking about it, and you start numbing to the fact of what it's going to cost you, and you start realizing, just like buying that house in that big neighborhood in JP, you start thinking about that, and before you know it, you're saying, a few more $100,000 or a few more picks here and there, as long as they're not, outrageously thought of, you start understanding that. So you're not mad. You just start looking at it thinking, how can we put this together? How will it be the best thing for this organization? And if the best thing is getting a quarterback like Deshaun Watson, you are willing to give up, other picks. And you understand that it's going to be big time picks for a guy that's this talented. He is a very talented guy. Of course, I have a great deal of strong feelings for him. He worked with us as a ball boy in our organization way back. And I think he's obviously a really good addition to an organization. Of course, he's dealing with what he's dealing with. That's not what we're talking about here today. This will be really interesting to see how this plays out. Kudos to Nick for being forward about it. I just find it amusing a little bit. Amusing is probably the wrong word, that Brian Flores and Nick Caserio, 2 buddies from New England, are actually in the middle of this big-time trade.
Well, okay. Well, don't be amused by it. Let's do something by it. You could probably get this done, mediate it. Get them on the phone, get them in a group chat, get them on the Zoom. What would you tell them? Because earlier, Thomas, I said, look, I feel like the Texans, Houston shouldn't make Deshaun Miami's problem. Okay, given he doesn't want to play there. Why pay him 10.5 to sit? You don't know that a better deal or the same deal would be there in March, because who knows what's going to unfold between now and then. So if you were mediating, what advice would you give? How would you resolve this? Would you tell Nick, hey, Nick, take what you can get? Would you tell Flores, hey, I know you like Tua, or you claim to like Tua, or you'll love the one you're with, which I think is what he's really doing, but make this move for Deshaun Watson? Who blinks first in your mind is what I'm getting at.
Look, Brian Flores and the group down in Miami are going to be happy with me saying this. This is a blockbuster trade. There's no question about it. It needs to be a very substantial trade with a lot involved. That's just the way it is to get a player of this caliber. And I think they need to understand it, which they do, of course. And of course, Nick Caserio and the Texans understand it. I think there needs to be a real good understanding. There needs to be a discussion about getting this done expeditiously, of course. And I don't think it's that complicated of a deal, gentlemen. I think they both need to realize what they need and what will benefit their organization. I think it's a really interesting thing, however, what this says in Miami about their current quarterback situation, and which I don't know. I haven't been reading a great deal about that. You guys could expound on that, but that's complicated for the Miami side because they're sending certain messages with this, of course.
Yeah, no, I think it's a situation where they're loving the one they're with. Simple as that. You know, the owner wanted to,
Right.
And if he's their quarterback, okay, we'll move forward. But I think they realize that there's an upgrade.
And if he's
available.
not their quarterback,
somebody
right,
else.
exactly.
Yeah, somebody else that you know very well is Kyle Shanahan, and a lot of people saw what he did in the last preseason game. They had talked about perhaps a rotating quarterback situation. Much like he did with Matt Ryan once upon a time. You know, they took a quarterback with the 3rd overall pick. They rotated them in the same couple of series to start their last preseason game the other day. And here's what Kyle Shanahan, your old offensive coordinator, had to say about that possibility going into the regular season.
Is Jimmy going to start first week?
I mean, guess we'll have to see. I mean, I don't like playing this game, but everyone keeps asking me that question. I'm not just giving the answer just to satisfy the question. I think we got a pretty good idea, like I said, all along. I think our team does, and we're pretty good with it as long as I can keep surviving press conferences.
How's that going for you?
I'm all right with it. It's just trying to be respectful.
He likes touring with us. He likes touring with the opposition. He likes touring with the media. And Thomas, if anybody is willing to be unconventional, feels like Kyle Shanahan, but you know him better than both of us. Do you see him actually rotating quarterbacks? Do you think that's something that he would actually entertain, or is this just a ruse to kind of give defenses something else to prepare for?
Wow, I could see him doing it. Again, there's one guy who can be off the cuff a little bit and so creative and so intelligent with his approach. I've said this again as well, guys. I really do believe that they want nothing more than to have the opportunity to have the young quarterback ready to go and have opportunities to potentially deal someone else in that organization who is a good quarterback in of himself and his approach. And I think he could be very valuable to other organizations, in the league, of course. So I will be really interested to see how they approach this. The reality is they have 2 good quarterbacks, one younger one who is still very, very raw. And for them, they need to make sure that this is a big year, producing offensively. And I really do believe they would preferably like to go with a young guy. But they also have a guy in there that can then get them wins, of course, while they're schooling the young player there. And, I could see them doing that. But again, you have to understand as a team builder to know that you have an opportunity to potentially move a really good quarterback, as another quarterback in a trade. That's really valuable for your organization.
I'm going to see, Thomas, if this, if general managing by osmosis works. I'm going to try to get some of your genius since you're a couple of boxes away. And tell me if I'm crazy on this. I look at the 5 quarterbacks who were taken in the first round. And one of them, and by the way, and Mike knows, we talked with Trey Lance before the draft. We were both blown away by his intelligence, just his composure, just really an impressive young man. But out of the 5 quarterbacks that I see in the first round, 4 of them look like they played football last year, and one of them doesn't. Do you see that as part of the rawness of Trey Lance from the fact that he hadn't played football in a long time, but like one game in the last 18 months?
Yeah, there's no question about that. That was a concern, like it was for most people. It was a concern for a lot of team builders within this, within the league, of course. Rawness is a legit issue, and it's a legit concern. But he has all the other requisite traits, or many of the other requisite traits that you're looking for in a budding quarterback. they believe that they're going to grow into a really good quarterback situation there in San Francisco, of course. Is he ready now? Is he ready in a year? Who knows? They also can look at what happened in Kansas City a few years ago, and they understand that. I remember talking with the guys over in Chicago when they made their move for Justin Fields. I mean, there is a little bit of a settling feeling when you know you can work someone in a year, much more than forcing them in right now. I just continue to say that for this organization, it would be really good because they were so strong and so aggressive and going up for a quarterback like this. You would like to see him play and contribute very early.
All right, so I have one more question for you. I know that this is the time where a lot of players and maybe even coaches and general managers get a little jittery because you got roster cut downs. You got to get to that 53. What's that process like for you, for general managers like you, where is it frantic? Is it an all-nighter where you're calling all your contacts around the league saying, hey, can I get a 2-for-1? I just really got to get down to the roster, and I got a lot of good players. Just tell us, give us some insight into what that's like.
Yeah, I would say, first of all, the frantic side, it happens at times if you're an organization that's really shuffling around trying to put your pieces together. I would say, and probably go out on a line on this, but I really believe the way that the spring is set up now in the NFL, not like the olden days, but there is so much involved in the spring and getting your roster ready, gentlemen, that I would say 75 to 85%. It may even be more in certain seasons at certain organizations that they have their teams fairly well picked and well situated prior to even stepping on the field at the beginning of training camp. And I think that's probably surprising to a lot of people, but there's so much in play in the spring. And I would say to agents, and I would say to young players, whether it's free agents coming into a new organization or whether it's draft picks, that springtime is incredibly vital to your success within an organization, unless you're the top-notch guy. Of course, that's a little different. But if you're not making hay in those early days of spring, you can put yourself back weeks and maybe months and even situate yourself from being an apparent starter to being a back-end guy. It's amazing. Spring is vital. You get into the training camp time. Yes, there are guys that make final pushes. No question that happens. But you have to understand that training camp in today's world is very different than it was 30 and 40 years ago.
Hey, man,
Good
we
stuff.
appreciate the
Love
time and the insight as always.
Love it.
Let's do it more often, man. We in high gear now. It's been a while since we talked to you. Let's pick up these appearances, especially, and last but certainly not least, especially if you're gonna wear sharp shirts like that. That's a really nice shirt. I've been admiring it since you sat down. I've never seen that brand. I'm digging it.
Well, it's got a little retro look to it. Travis Matthews is the only golf shirt that I'll wear right now because sometimes I wear a golf shirt, I feel a little too preppy, and that's kind of not my world. So check it out. You guys know your styles. I know that.
I will.
I don't.
What's on your wrist today? You got anything on your wrist? What's on the wrist? Oh, there it is. Oh,
I do, but
that's that Daytona.
It's a Daytona. That's a good eye. I won't even go past that. You guys can do your research on it, but it is. But yeah.
Hey, say no more. Say we're not worthy. We're not worthy.
You guys are beyond worthy. I know that.
Fashion model. GM/fashion model. My God,
all I know is I'm trying to get myself situated down here. It's still hot as Hades down here. I mean, it is hot. There's a lot going on down here in Atlanta, but I'm enjoying it, and just trying to figure out my world again. Like I told you guys, I think I told you, Michael. First time in 47 years, Michael Smith, that I have not been in a training camp. That's a long, long time. So I'm dealing with it. I'm having fun. I'm with my kids a lot. But I'm doing a lot more of kind of looking at the league perspective that usually it's tough to do when you're involved with a certain team, of course.
Well, we appreciate you sharing that insight with us. Wait, how's the first time in 47 years when you're 25 years old? You don't look no older than 25. You got a little gray, but I mean,
I look in gray.
Add up to me.
I get the gray thing, man. Every time I turn around, I'm like, wow. Even my kids the other day, every time I turn around, they're like, Pops, you're looking older. You all right? And I'm like, I'm good. I'm just trying to sleep a little bit more. I'm trying to catch up on my sleep.
You're looking
Yeah.
good. Appreciate you,
All right.
Thomas. We'll see you next time, man.
Thomas
Take care. Thank you
Dimitroff,
so much.
appreciate you, man.
Thanks, gentlemen. Thank you.